What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Today we have another interview for you all. We did the Nat Turner one about a month ago. Today we are joined by Mike Nett over at eBay to talk all things trading cards. About 20 to 30 minute long interview, give or take. We were a little limited on time. So got a shorter one here for you today. But let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Today, I have the pleasure of having Mike Nett, Director of Trading Cards and Memorabilia of eBay, on the channel, which is a pretty interesting title for a guest on the channel. That's got to look good on a business card.
Oh, it is. It's a fun place to be. That's for sure.
We'll just go ahead and dive right in. So, eBay, obviously the largest selling platform for cards and stuff. Let's look back first. 2024, what did that look like for you guys kind of compared to the previous couple of years? Was it like kind of still settling down from the pandemic? Was it a record-setting year? Like, what did the category look like in 2024?
2024, I feel like, was just about fun for everybody in collecting. When you look back through the year, we started off and we had Connor Bedard in hockey, we had Wemby in basketball. We move ahead to the Super Bowl. We had a great matchup. I think the Chiefs became America's team at that point. Then moving forward, Caitlin Clark, and she brought a whole new set of collectors into the space. And throughout the year, it was just fantastic. And basketball moving into the Olympics, so every point of the year there was something great happening, I think, for collectors. The rookie class was phenomenal. I think the rookie class is even better than the previous year. And even when we transition and look at CCG or trading card games too, it was a great year. I mean, we had One Piece that was really doing well, a lot of momentum thanks to the Netflix show. And then, the last quarter, there was such a great increase in popularity with Pokemon between the different releases they had coming in October. We had great interest in Terrestrial Festival coming over from Japan, and that's carried over into this year. So the collecting landscape was phenomenal in 2024. But then also, so was the business landscape too. We were really busy. It was great to acquire Golden and to be able to now work with such a great market, such a great auction house such as Golden, work with Ken Gold and all the great folks over there. And then, of course, kind of capping the year with a partnership with PSA. And we've been able to bring some great innovations out to the space in the way we've been able to work together.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that PSA partnership in a little bit, because I think that's one of the more, like, what was announced was really cool, but what it could potentially be later down the road, I think, is almost just as exciting as what we already know about. But looking at 24, do you guys like track anything with like first time card purchasers or anything like that? Like, do you guys capture data on like how many people maybe like bought their first sports card on eBay or anything like that, like, or first sports card through eBay or anything like that? Like, you mentioned Caitlin Clark. I'm like thinking of like people that have never bought a card before, maybe all of a sudden jumping on the platform to buy.
Yeah, we're always looking at, I think some of the best metrics that we can look at are the health of our buying base, new folks that are coming, but also is really important is the folks that are returning and coming back and are consistently with us. And there's such a great year for the hobby, and that continues to be great as well. And so we're really happy with the interest that we see across the board with our customers.
That's cool. Did anything surprise you in 2024? Like, you go into the year kind of expecting certain, like, like a draft class is hyped or not before the season even starts to some degree. But looking back, was there anything that was like, man, I did not see X, Y, or Z, maybe category or brand just completely popping off?
Yeah, I think there are probably two ones. There's probably Pokemon and then Aunt Edwards were the two that were amazing. That with Pokemon, I felt like in 2023, Pokemon 151 was such a smart release, replicating the original 151 characters. And I thought, this is going to be how can we find something that's going to be as good as this release? But then the popularity that we've seen from the recent releases has been amazing. And then another great example, I think anytime we're watching sports, there's always something emerging or a new story that's coming out. And Ant Edwards was probably one of the cooler ones for the year. And we watched him. So when he was in the playoffs and they made it past the first round, I think they played the Lakers. They made it past No, they didn't make it. It was they played the Nuggets in the first round in the performance, and we saw Ant Edwards move. He wasn't in the top 25 for search. He started to play really well, and we saw him creep one week. He came in the top 25. The next week, he dropped down and he was in the top 10. And there was another, maybe it was Anthony Edwards. And then by the time we got to the peak, he had 4 different search placements in the top 25 for collectibles. And the interest in his cards and the amount of cards that were transacting during that time just really exploded. So I think the great thing about sports and what we're doing in collectibles is no matter what's happening, there's always something interesting that's going to pop up, or some new matchup, or some story about an athlete that's going to be great.
Yeah, and we're just so great because one, he's obviously an amazing basketball player, but he has such a unique personality off the court of just being absolutely hilarious and an amazing. You watch interviews with him, and he's just like a classic, just a character and a half.
Have you seen Starting Five on Netflix?
I have not watched all of it, but I've caught some clips of it.
Yeah, but to your point, when you get someone who's fun and interesting, and Netflix is doing a great job. If you think back to, what was it, Drive to Survive? Kind of, I don't know if that started it, and maybe it was The Last Dance from the Bulls. But we've seen so many of these very cool, this content and getting closer to the athletes. All of these kind of pieces that are coming to light help to kind of fuel, I think, our interest in who we like to collect, who we get to know and like to see.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned like search results going up. I have to imagine, to pull a more recent example, like did every metric break on Saturday night when Luka got traded to the Lakers? Was it just like, I assume you have like some sort of charting or graphing on like search results, and I have to imagine the Luka went like just to the moon.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example. Yeah, Luka, AD, and everyone's searching to see Luka on the Lakers. Sounds like a dream come true to a lot of people. And I actually felt bad seeing some of those Instagram reels of young fans who were just so sad to see Luka leave. And he even said he thought he was going to be there for a long time. But you're right, the interest that changes. Shohei is another great example when he got traded to the Dodgers. And then also when the 50-50 chase was just amazing to see top sales littered with just Shohei. And we're seeing some similar things from Luka too.
Yeah, that's got to be crazy. That you guys, the amount of data that you guys have to have behind the scenes on that stuff is probably amazing. Just like how much deep dives you could probably do on that stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. It's in some of it is we track an interesting stat too of rookies versus stars versus kind of like tail/evergreen. And last year, the mix shifted a little bit to rookies, not as much from stars. But what's amazing is that the evergreen in the tail is so big. Like, I think that I love to hear what people's personal collection are. And like, I like to collect basketball. I went to the University of Illinois. So Ayo Dosunmu went to the state school that I went to. Now he plays for the Bulls. And that's who I collect. And I love to hear folks with like a really narrow PC lane that they're going into, because a lot of that is driving the hobby too. It's not always some of the different stars. It's the folks that are finding a card that completes that set that they're searching for, or maybe it's a player who they've tracked through their career. But it's a lot of fun to see both kind of those big stars, but then also some of the stranger collections that are out there.
Yeah, some of the players that get like one save search on the entire platform, and the Grail card pops up and they nail it. You had mentioned the PSA integration a little bit earlier. Let's kind of circle into that real quick. I think that's like the between the vaulting and the insta selling, like on the PSA side, and being able to dual list, or to be able to have that instantly go over to eBay, and have the auctions, and now they're getting ready to roll. I think they've actually already rolled out like the bin and best offer stuff is coming soon. And now you guys just recently integrated the pop report data. How has the feedback been on that for you guys, just like from what you're seeing from customers, and what kind of impacts has that had already?
Yeah. The pop report one was great, because the start of the partnership was about the flow of cards and making things easier. If a customer is going to grade, now they can get it graded PSA and say, hey, let's sell it on eBay. as well. And so this is like that second to what you're saying. There's so many things you could think through. This is now we're talking about the data piece also. And we always run the tests to see how do customers react to something. So some customers will get to see the population reports when we first started it, and not all customers did. And we saw great results from people's interest and interaction, and then people who were able to make a purchase decision much easier because they had that data. And so now to have this like empirical evidence, like we knew that that was important, that people are searching the different places for values, they're searching for pop reports, but to see when we package it up really nicely for folks how much they appreciate it, both kind of statistically and what we saw the interaction, but then also the feedback we got was phenomenal. It really helps to prove when we provide these great experiences for our customers, they respond, they use them. So it's really helpful to kind of know that and be able to work off of that in the future.
Is this from like the PSA integration standpoint? Is this kind of like the tip of the iceberg? Like we're just kind of seeing this, and there's a lot more ways that you guys can potentially expand upon that. Like one of the things where my mind goes immediately, that I myself have frustrations with. You're searching for something on eBay and someone just butchers a listing title, or there's just something in there that you just wouldn't expect to see, and it gets kind of lost in the sauce. Is there a way that that when I'm going to list a slab on eBay that I could just type in the PSA cert number at some point in time, and it's just going to suck all that data in and kind of like standardize the listing on graded cards or anything like that, or leveraging that data that way?
Yeah, there's so much that's possible. I think we've filled whiteboards with different ideas, and there's nothing specific that I can talk about right now with that. But the purpose of the relationship with PSA is to be able to work together both in like the physical experiences of the cards, but then also like we've shown with the population reports and the different things that we can do there.
Do you think we'd ever potentially see other grading companies on that pop report data, or will this just be limited to PSA because of the integration for the time being?
Yeah, we're excited about it. The customers love it and they really responded to it. And I think one of the things that we like to do when we find a good feature like that is we want to make sure that we can provide that to as many cards as we can. So right now we're working on making sure it's working well, making sure the coverage is there, and then we'll start thinking about the expanded coverage as well in the future.
Cool. I recently had Nat Turner on the PSA side about a month or so ago, and we kind of talked about some of the eBay stuff. I don't know how much you guys could talk about, but I'll at least poke you. The direct to grading stuff, can you tease anything on that? Like, Nat obviously said that it's coming. You want to kind of like the tentpole things possibly for 2025. Do you have any little insights you could give us on me being able to just click a raw card on eBay or while it's over there for AG and just check mark a box or however it would work and say, hey, I'd like to pay you a few extra bucks and have this graded for me?
Yeah, I don't have specifics I can share, but the whole point of our relationship with PSA is to make smoother and easier experiences for the hobby community, and direct to grading would definitely fall within that bucket. So I think it's a space to definitely we have to watch, and I'll ask you to watch and keep your eye out.
PSA is obviously doing the authenticity guarantee stuff with you guys, and that to me has been, forget when did AG actually officially roll out? It seemed like it hit mainstream last year, but I think it's been around a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, I don't know the exact year, but I think it's been out longer than just. I think it came out before 2024, but I'm not exactly certain.
Yeah, I can't remember. I remember doing videos about it. I just don't remember the exact days. That to me has been a major W. There's obviously some little things here and there, but generally speaking, I know myself personally, it's given me, I almost like it better as a seller than as a buyer in some cases, because it gives me like that extra level of confidence to ship a high value item off, because I know there's like this extra level in between. Can you just kind of talk about how that's worked out for you guys in the last year or a couple of years?
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear you say that, because we've on the buyer side, which I think is probably where I wasn't on the team who brought it about, but that's probably where the insight came from, is how can we make things more trusted for our buyers? But our research has shown, in our discussion with sellers love it too, because there's no debate. You've sold the card, you send it in for AG, and again, AG is for cards over $250. And now we have an authenticator, PSA, looking at it and saying, hey, this looks good, moving it through. So now if there's any question, well, it's already gone through a check. So there's no question about what's happening, and the seller in those cases is happy because they're protected if there's a question.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great as a buyer too. Like I feel really good about it, but the scary part about selling is always shipping the item off and then like hoping everything arrives okay and that there's no issues with it. And I think just having that like extra barrier of a third party stepped in and said, yes, everything is on the up and up with this, so there's no end issues once the buyer actually gets it.
Yes, yeah, totally. We hear that over and over, and it's good to hear you're seeing the same thing.
Now, are there any plans to, because there are some, people, unfortunately, anytime you roll something out, people will pick at the edges of it and find loopholes in it. And a couple of the big ones are like, if you're selling multiple cards, I've seen people do, some shady things with, listing the high value card with a random, 5-cent raw card to try to skip over that. Or even maybe they're just legitimately selling a lot of free PSA 10 whatevers together. Is there any plans to kind of tweak that, to kind of tighten that up a little bit, or to adjust anything on AG?
It's something we're always watching. We actually just pulled some data recently to see what's happening in that case. And right now AG is for singles over 250. But I think one of the other good things is we're trying to put as many protections in place for buyers and sellers as possible. So no matter what price point or category if you don't pass an AG, there's also eBay money back guarantee where we can protect customers in case there is an issue, and eBay will make sure that they're covered.
And then as well, like, so this started on with, was it shoes and watches, I think? Because you guys have authenticity guarantee in other categories as well, correct?
Yeah, shoes and watches for sure.
Do we see this eventually expanding into possibly other collectible categories beyond cards? Like, I know, like, the first one that jumps to my mind, even if you're just verifying that it's still sealed, is if I sell a sealed booster box of Pokemon cards or a sealed box of 2018 Topps Chrome, that going off to AG and them just basically saying, yes, the cellophane's all intact, everything's good, and then shipping it on. Like, is it possible that we could see that expand out beyond just trading cards in the collectible category?
Yeah, right now we're working on making sure that AG experience is as solid as possible. And something we talked about with kind of the population reports, we want to make sure we're covering our bases. So there's cases that come up that we want to make sure that we're covering. So we're right now working on making sure that we're perfecting that AG space, and that we're able to cover kind of all the scenarios that we have today.
Cool. One of the other things that you guys kind of rolled out a lot last year was like automatic payments, non-payment protection, if you kind of want to throw a term on it. But you had some auto pay stuff with best offer and buy it now, where the buyer's automatically charged a little bit quicker, and you guys have kind of dabbled with auto pay on auctions. Is that fully rolled out yet, or is that still in like a beta phase? Because it feels like sometimes I see it and sometimes I don't.
Yeah, we took big steps with auto pay last year, and you're right, it's across buy it now. Now on the auction side, it's on combined shipping, makes it difficult. So it's on auctions that where the seller doesn't have combined shipping, and we're working through what those solutions could be in the combined shipping space. And this is definitely an area that we were focused on. So I think one of the philosophies that we have is we're focused on selection, customer experience, and trust. And those are three really important things to us. And so the situation that you mentioned where you have unpaid covers both on seller experience and on trust. And so it's something we're really focused on, and we saw some strong improvements last year, and we're going to continue to focus on that this year too.
Yeah, that's, anytime I do videos about eBay, one of the the non-payment is always a frustration point. And it sounds like a simple solution, just auto bill them when it's done, but there are a ton of complications with that, like combined shipping, or hey, I want to buy multiple cards, especially from some of the larger sellers that might have things staggered ending across a week. I get it, but on the flip side, there's nothing worse than like when you sell something, they don't pay for 4 days, and then you got to relist it and start the process all over again. So it's nice to see you guys making a pretty big effort last year to kind of crack down and tighten that up a lot.
Yeah, we have a big team focused on making sure that we can deliver
The
here.
other thing from a tool perspective that I've really enjoyed recently, and I'd be kind of curious to see where this ends up going in other realms, and it's super simple, is the AI descriptor tool. Like I just hit the button and says use AI to kind of just fill this out for me, so I don't got to type it out, and it pulls the pieces and parts from the listing data. That's obviously one way that you guys are using AI from a buyer and seller experience. Is there other ways that you could kind of see AI impacting things to make life a little simpler for everybody?
Yeah. AI is the hot topic, and the biggest innovation right now is we internally call it kind of the bulk magic listing and the magic listing. So where you can upload your cards in an interface, and then the AI tool will look at each of the cards and kind of fill out the titles and create a submission for you. And of course, you'll check them and be able to change. So that's the biggest one right now out in collectibles. But there's another cool one it's not necessarily, I think they use some forms of AI, but it's not necessarily AI, and it's similar to something you were asking about earlier, and that's with our search. We have a very cool feature out right now that's when you search in mobile. This is on the mobile experience. When you search in mobile for a specific card, we often have the autofill options there. Well, at the bottom of that autofill, there's often entries with a thumbnail and a picture. And we call that a product-based experience. So check it out the next time. If you search for like 1989 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr., you would see at the bottom that thumbnail, and that's very specific to the catalog. So when you check out that, you check that, you'll see listings that are only matching to that very specific card, and it'll be very narrow to that card. And it's something that's just rolling out. It's rolled out, but it's something that it's a little hidden because you have to know to click that or tap that thumbnail on the mobile experience. But it's a really interesting feature that works really well.
That's interesting. I have not seen that, but I maybe actually I probably have seen it and just maybe either didn't realize what it was or didn't realize I needed to click on something extra down there.
Yeah, it's a fun one, and a lot of offshoots in the future that'll be exciting from that.
The other big trend of kind of the last couple of years, live selling, and I know that's something you guys have kind of gotten into more and more. How has that evolved for collectibles specifically over 2024, and how do you see that kind of evolving into 2025?
Yeah, it's our sellers have loved it, and so have our buyers or our collectors. I remember hearing on one of your episodes that you look in the comments a lot, and I think when you work on an online marketplace, we don't ever get to see someone super excited that they won a card, or maybe some emotion if they lost an auction. But live brings that. It adds a new dimension to all the things that we do at eBay, and knowing we've got such a great base of cards that now our sellers can take them and show them and interact with our customers has been fantastic. And one of the things we really are focusing on is making sure it's entertaining. We can't just have an experience where you're taking cards that are listed on eBay, showing them and selling them. There have been some really interesting shows and sellers out there. We had Stipe Miocic, former heavyweight champion of UFC, and he was opening boxes in a break. We also had the original voice of Ash Ketchum. That actress was on one of the shows, and it was cool. It was kind of part interview, part show where we're breaking and selling product, but then also the comments in the comment section were great because the community was pulling together. So between kind of the shows that we're putting out and then the interesting product that we're getting out there, it's been great to see that product evolve and the interest that we've seen from buyers and sellers alike.
Yeah, I've seen some interesting stuff I don't do a ton of live buying, and I don't do any live selling, but a lot of live buying. It's just a time commitment that I don't necessarily have. But I've
Yeah.
seen some interesting stuff like with artists in the comic book space or even in cards, where just giving them the ability to go live and actually sketch a card out or draw something or whatever, basically create something in front of the audience, and then the
Yeah.
audience is able to bid on that item at the same time, is such a unique all around experience.
Yeah. Those types of, when we get the right people and the interest, that not like Stipe was signing gloves and they were auctioning those off. But what you were saying about the comic artists, it takes you to like Comic Cons, and where the artist has a booth and you can go see them. And now to make that accessible to so many different people, it's great for the artists, it's great for the collectors. So it's a lot of fun to see.
Yeah. I know you got to run pretty quick here, Mike. So we'll end on this one. What does 2025 have in store for eBay? What are you seeing popping out already in a trend, or what, where are things going to go this year for you guys in this category?
Yeah, we talked about it a couple of times. We see the trading card games doing so well. Um, we're excited about all of the innovations. I mean, we've talked a lot about things that we're going to be working a lot. We're talking about all the great things that we're doing with PSA, all the new innovations, the new sellers that are coming to live, and all these different search innovations we talked about, all these new creations that are coming for eBay. We're really developing these to hopefully bring new experiences for customers that make eBay a great place to be able to shop, find the cards that you're looking for, and hopefully add to your collection.
Awesome. Sounds great. I look forward to see what you guys got rolling out this year and doing some coverage on it as things pop out. So once again, appreciate you coming on, Mike. It's been a great chat, and hope to have you on again in the future.
That sounds great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.